Hi, everybody, and welcome to the first annual Data Automation Summit. I really want to thank each and every one of you for attending, and we're really excited for what we have ahead of us. We have attendees here across industries and across geographies. There are people attending the summit from Australia to France, from Israel to China, and of course, everywhere in between. We have attendees from healthcare, fintech, media, retail, you name the industry, and there are people who are deeply interested in learning more about data automation. We saw a phenomenal response from folks signing up for this conference, and we can see just how hungry each and every one of you are to learn more about this topic. We're really excited to be part of those conversations. To talk a little bit about the Data Automation Summit, this is where we're really excited to focus on the topic of what is automation and how are people applying it to the benefit of their teams, their work, and their companies. We, like you, can see that how important the automation industry is to the entire lifecycle of data workloads. The challenge, however, is it is frequently misunderstood. So we are giving it time to shine. Over the next 2 days, we have more than 20 case studies, sessions, best practices, and discussions for you to learn more about data automation and how your peers across these industries and across these geographies are applying data automation to their benefit and to their advancement of their fields. To spend some time talking about what data automation really is, we need to first think about why is data automation so important? Not to go too far back, but more than 10 years ago, Mark Andreessen proclaimed, software is eating the world. And I think 10 years later, we can largely agree. It is hard to find a company that is also not a software company. In fact, just a few years ago, Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, claimed every company is now a software company. It's a really interesting time, particularly for those of us in the data space, as those of us who have worked in software and those of us who have worked in data know that software can do two things incredibly well. It can produce incredibly large volumes of raw data and is equally as good at consuming refined data and enabling it to build smarter products, more impactful products. In many ways, data is the lifeblood of modern businesses. Now, to be clear, data automation has not always been that important. When I think of how I first started my career as a data engineer, the challenges were really different. 10 to 15 years ago, arguably even 5 years ago, maybe for some even still today, the challenge wasn't really around data automation. Is around size and scale of data. As big data ushered in these incredibly new technologies that we could use to power incredibly compelling new use cases to solve for problems that we had never even had the thought that we could tackle. It brought with it an interesting set of challenges. How to scale? How to scale to the size, the volume, the velocity of that data. But what has happened over the last few years is we have seen tremendous shifts. We have seen a tremendous shift where incredible innovations have happened, powered by and driven by some of the largest technology vendors and technology providers, whether it's the cloud vendors, the warehouse, the data plane processing, pipelining technologies out there. Some of the most innovative technologies have been brought into the market and at tremendous scale. And in doing so have helped solve for those challenges of how do I store enough data? How do I process it fast enough? In fact, when we surveyed users last year, more than 80% said that the size and scale of their data was no longer a challenge. Can you imagine that? If you would have asked me 5 years ago, what percent of teams companies, individuals that we surveyed would think that the scale of data was no longer a challenge. I would have thought much higher percent of people would have still been struggling. And that's a remarkable testament to the sheer innovation that we have seen at the data infrastructure layer in our industry. But something emerges. This is the exciting part about technology, is we are never holding still. There is always the next great challenge to solve for. And as we solve for the size and the scale of the data, the challenge that emerges next is, how do we do more with that data? How do we create more value? How do we drive more innovation? And I would contend that the next big challenge for us is productivity. All the way back in 2015, Gartner produced this really exciting report. And one of the quotes in there, still to this day, reminds me, as I remember having this in an investor deck way back when, which was, as more organizations invest in big data, the shortage of available skills and capabilities will become more acute. A very articulate way of saying the supply and demand curves don't match, and it's going to get worse. We have a tremendous need for data expertise in our industry, whether it's data engineers, data analysts, data scientists, you name it. There is a shortage of available expertise and talent. And we are producing them at an incredible rate. Yet the challenge is the demand outpaces our ability to supply this talent. For example, when we survey teams, and we've done this annually for the last 3 years, more than 96% of teams, when asked, say that they are at or over capacity. That is only 4% of teams out there say they have bandwidth for new things. The vast majority are already tapped. Moreover, when asked whether supplier demand is growing faster, 81% of teams last year highlighted that demand continues to outpace their ability to supply, their ability to hire more or to automate more. And as a result, it looks like things may only be getting worse. And so that is why, when we start to think about why data automation is so important, there is no fundamental shortage of incredible things we can do with data. You will find throughout this summit the incredible things that people are doing with data automation. And we'll spend some more time talking about that in a bit. But to do so, we really need to be able to pull individuals and teams out of the weeds, get them out of the muck, as it were, and back to innovation and value creation. And data automation becomes a critical part of that solution. So if we think about what data automation truly is, I go back to a little bit of a conversation that I was having with some of the team at the tail end of 2021. And for those of you who perhaps don't spend some time on the marketing side, or for those who aren't on the enterprise side of the industries, one of the most common things for us to do is to make next year predictions. Is just a thing that most enterprise companies do. Every December, you sit down and start to think through, what do we think is going to happen next year? And I remember one of the conversations that we had pulling on this theme, which was, we really do believe that 2022 is going to be the year of data automation, which is a really bold claim. There is a ton of other things happening in our industry. Why would this year happen to be the year of data automation? I think we are hitting a really unique point in time in our industry that is combined with this incredible innovation that has happened at the data infrastructure layer that has freed up a tremendous amount of capabilities. Yet it is happening at the same time that we are seeing a continually widening gap of supply and demand and talent. And at the same time, where the sheer need for smarter products across industries is spiking. And so when we actually asked individuals and teams this year, we have a new survey. It is actually yet to come out. So I'm going to give you all a really fun preview. In our 2022 Data Aware survey, we asked hundreds of individuals and teams, data scientists, data engineers, data analysts, chief data officers, do you use and employ data automation today? And only 2.3% of respondees said that they use data automation today. Yet when we asked them if they intended on using data automation in the next 12 months, more than 80% said yes. The sheer striking discrepancy between those who have currently employed data automation and those who intend on using it, I have never seen in any other domain. And it highlights how much demand there is for automation. And so I think there's a really interesting conversation to be had and challenge ahead of us too, which is, what is data automation? There will be a ton of people, a ton of companies, a ton of teams and individuals all running to help define what data automation is. And I think it's going to be a very fun and explorative couple of quarters as more and more individuals and teams contribute to what is data automation. I think that there's still a lot of misconception too around what is it. Is data automation data ops? Is it data orchestration? Is it data fabrics and data meshes? This will be a number of really fun topics for us to explore as we dive into the other events and the other topics that you will see across our speakers. I would contend that data automation is a broader category. Data automation helps, it assists, it enhances orchestration, data ops, data meshes. Oftentimes, it even enables these things at remarkable scale and complexity. One thing that I do believe is fundamentally true is the benefits and the value we all hope to receive and extract from data automation. The leverage it can give our data teams can provide exponential return. Today, our data teams are underwater, and they are some of our highest impact, most valuable, most sought after, and hardest to retain talent. Yet oftentimes we have them deep in the weeds, deep in the muck, have them reinventing the wheel over and over again, repeating things over and over again, saddled and encumbered with monotonous manual tasks. With data automation, we have the potential to free them to take these best and brightest we have in our companies and leverage their skill sets and let them loose on some of the most impactful and challenging opportunities we have across our industries and across our field to really change the world around us. So to dive in a little bit more, let me give a few examples. For example, we oftentimes hear about automation and orchestration. Is there really much difference? I think there's a really quite remarkable difference. Oftentimes companies start their automation journey with orchestration. Timers, triggers, dependencies. Makes a tremendous amount of sense. But I would contend automation requires more. Automation doesn't matter if it's in data, if it's self-driving cars, if it's remote process automation. Automation fundamentally requires understanding. Understanding fundamentally requires context, and the context fundamentally requires metadata. And so one of the things that we will see across these conversations and across these topics is the need for more metadata. Metadata helps empower and drive deeper understanding, deeper context, and as a result, deeper audit levels of automation. It doesn't matter whether you're doing ETL or ELT or ETLT. the sheer advantages and benefits we get with automation when we collect tremendous amounts of metadata and we build systems that can rise to a higher level of understanding and free us from that same burden, degrade the overall impact. So we're going to spend more time talking about that. Now, one of the areas where I love to focus on is how is automation impacting us today? In a nutshell, the productivity and overall benefit of automation is opening up some of the most exciting opportunities and use cases around the world. We see a tremendous number of companies and teams automating, first with orchestration, then far deeper, taking what used to require dozens and dozens of weeks of effort and accomplishing the same feats in 1 or 2 weeks. We see them being able to take what used to require incredibly large teams with incredibly diverse and complex skill sets, all coming together, all having to orchestrate and coordinate their efforts, and be able to accomplish those same feats with 1 or 2 people. The sheer impact is quite remarkable. So when we think about the benefits, I encourage you all to attend a number of these sessions. We have such exciting customers. We have such exciting speakers talking about a wide variety of different topics. You will see companies like H&I, who is literally transformed how they think about supply chain and analytics for their business. You will see companies like Maytronics processing incredibly large volumes of data to power their robotic swimming pool cleaners. You will see Ports of Auckland and how they harness automation to fundamentally transform their business. You will see Komodo Health similarly harness the power of data to transform the industry of healthcare. The thing that we all can certainly embrace and appreciate is that as we live in this new world where every company is a software company and software consumes data and produces data at incredible volume, the ability to affect our individual lives, the lives of our communities, the lives of the people around us is fundamentally enabled by automation. And that the sheer potential is essentially limitless by enabling our best and brightest to accomplish more, to impact more, to achieve more by pulling them out of these weeds. So when we start to think about that future of automation, I'm really excited to see where we start to take this. One of the topics that I previewed a while back was this notion of data fabrics and data meshes. These have been a hot topic for a while, but in small pockets. We've seen in different domains and in different industries, people start to talk about this notion of data fabrics and data meshes. And there are some unique distinctions between the two, depending on your camp, your stage, your evolution, your culture, and your corporate structures. You may have some slightly different notions of which best suits you. But I think that there is a really exciting future ahead of us. One of the things that we have seen over the course of the last 5 to 10 years is a reversal of trends. 5 to 10 years ago, there was a very strong push to consolidate data, consolidate it into your lake, consolidate it into your warehouse. And we're starting to see those trends change. We're starting to see that organizations are embracing silos, not complete silos, but embracing the fact that they cannot consolidate all of their data, and that there is no one platform at the data infrastructure layer to suit them all. They may want a center of gravity, but a fully unified lake that can accomplish all of their needs can be very difficult. The world of data has just grown too fast. It is like swimming upstream as we've watched companies and teams over the years try and pull all of their data into one spot, but they always still had other spaces. We see this a ton with enterprise companies today. As enterprises grow, they acquire more business units. They acquire new companies that have run on different clouds, different data infrastructures, different models, different partners, different syndication channels. The sheer level of additive data sets and the sheer level of added data complexity makes it very hard to fully consolidate. And so the trend we see over time, particularly with data automation, is an embracing. There will always be multiple data technologies. You will always have your Facebook ads data available through a particular API. You will always have your Google ads data available through a different API, or maybe in BigQuery. You will always have your data warehouse on a particular technology, or your data lake on another technology. And you'll have many teams tapping into the underlying capabilities that best suit their needs. And so the question then arises, which is, how do we still get some level of standardization? How do we still unlock the network effect for our teams, for our data? There is a fundamental, exponentially increasing value of data the more we can unify it. So how do we accomplish that when we fundamentally know that it is challenging to pull all of our data in and centralize all of our processing? That old adage of data gravity is tricky. Our data may sit in one location, but we really want refined data in another location. So one of the things that we've started to see is very much this embracing of a data mesh strategy. As we've gone and surveyed companies, this is one of the number one priorities, one of the top priorities for teams, is to start to invest in their data mesh strategy, to embrace the fact that their data exists in a very heterogeneous ecosystem. They have teams with a very heterogeneous set of needs. Yet at the same time, they want that network effect of value unlocked for them. And so one of the things that we see a lot of companies today investing in and valuing is embracing this new notion of data automation to help accomplish that, and solving for this at a metadata layer and at an automation layer, as opposed to a data gravity layer. And so what we see a number of companies today investing in is multiple data architectures, multiple locations where you can store your data, where you can process your data, where you can push and publish your data to other systems that may be in different data infrastructures, maybe in different data clouds, maybe in different infrastructure clouds entirely, maybe on entirely different continents. And that's one of the reasons why we are really excited to be stepping into the next era of automation with Ascend. One of the things that we are really excited about going forward is our multi-data strategy. Historically, Ascend has been a lake-based technology, in particular, a Spark and lake-based technology. For those of you who have worked with Ascend over the last couple of years, you have seen us increasingly invest in diversification at the data connector and at the data infrastructure layer. One of the trends that we have seen over the course of the last few years is tremendous competition at the data infrastructure layer. And we are excited to see this happening as we see the pace of innovation accelerating. The sheer number of capabilities is expanding. And the things that we can then take advantage of grows significantly. What also comes with this level of competition is, in fact, standardization. We are no longer in the early adopter territory. There is clear needs and demands for what companies require out of their data infrastructure. We are seeing the worlds of data lakes and data warehouses start to hybridize and blend. We are seeing the notions of ETL and ELT start to hybridize and blend. The things that you used to only be able to use a lake architecture for, you can probably use a warehouse architecture for, and vice versa. The things you used to use a warehouse architecture for, you can probably use a lake architecture for. And so this starts to introduce a really interesting layer of standardization. And one of the reasons why we love that standardization when we think about automation is standardization allows us to build for the common patterns. We can now, as we start to see things like zero copy clones of data, snapshotting of data, time travel of data, as we see the ability to massively scale both parallel and unique workloads. We see this across the technology landscape. These are incredible patterns that we can now actually take advanced layers of automation and bring those to. So things like smart reprocessing of data, data integrity checks, advanced partitioning of data, intelligent modification or intelligent monitoring of your code, so that when you roll code forward or roll code back, we can intelligently process the right parts of data. Even more importantly, the lineage to be able to track where your data came from, what happened to it, how did you process it, where did it go? And that ability to do so now across data planes, to be able to track it from one cloud and one warehouse and one lake to the next and the next. The opportunities and the potential here are essentially limitless in our ability as we expand to this multi-data plane, automation-driven future. And so the exciting part that we look forward to is this multi-data plane future. As we head into the next number of our sessions, you'll see from Nandan, who will actually walk you through more of this new multi-data plane offering that we have. And we'll tell you more about the incredible new technologies that we are supporting. We cannot wait for you to learn more about this technology as an illustrative example of the sheer potential of automation, and take that into your learnings with other sessions. As you head out throughout the rest of today and tomorrow, please enjoy the tracks. We have a lot of exciting, pioneering, innovative speakers who are going to show you the variety of ways in which they are applying automation to their specific fields. And I hope you take away a great deal of inspiration, a great deal of comfort to know that it is possible to lean on automation and accomplish so much more than we do today. And I hope you find excitement in what that holds for us all as we head into the next few years. Thank you and enjoy the summit.